Leafs converts, hockey world, what is up? This is the Leafs Convo podcast. My name is Norman James, your host and creator of this project that we love so much. We got a lot to talk about here on this Sunday spectacular. Of course, Austin Matthews going down with a shoulder injury, we believe. How long is he going to be gone for, and how is this going to affect the Maple Leafs? Oh yeah, they won 3-2 over the Jets, sweeping the home and home at Scotiabank Place. Nazem Kadri coming to life thanks to Mitch Marner, but of course, he's going to get paid way more money than William Nylander will ever get paid, and that's not going to sit well with the Nylanderites. But I digress. Mike is ready to go. I'm ready to go. I know you are too. So what do you say? Let's pod Sunday spectacular style. The Leafs Convo starts right now. Mike from Big Cheek, the one and only Michael Piagello. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning, Norman. How are you?
Not too bad. I love the comeback the Leafs put together late in the game to sour the Jets' trip to Toronto, winning 3-2, sending the Jets to Finland with some pouty faces. But we lost number 34 along the way, and who knows how long he's going to be gone.
Yeah, it sort of put a damper on things. Basically, just personally, I didn't really concentrate much on the third period comeback as I was writing a story about the Matthews injury for Sporting News. And, I just see the one goal and, okay, they scored a goal. I see another goal. It was sort of like background noise because everybody was concentrating on the injury. And, I mean, it's a very good victory for the club. They were, I think, outworked and out-physicaled in the first 40 minutes. But the Jets were playing their third game in 4 nights. And I think they lost a little bit of energy going into the third. And I think that the sort of revamped forward lines, especially the Marleau, Kadri, Marner line, which played together most of the second half of last year, they played really well in the third, and the good comeback victory with Kapanen getting the goal 26 seconds after Gardner. But obviously the focus after the game is Matthews.
On the Maple Leafs for trailing in the game for most of it and then coming back late to pull out the victory, that you're going to win in a variety of ways throughout the season. 82 games, you're not going to win the same every time. You're not going to lose the same every time. So, I mean, what would you rather the team do? Just fold like a cheap 10 and then lament the loss, or come back, get the win, and, you take your 2 points how you can get them. With Austin Matthews, it sucks for fans because I love watching them. It's like watching the Raptors right now. If Kawhi Leonard goes down, the Raptors are still going to do well. But you want to watch because of Kawhi. You just never know what kind of show you're going to get. It's going to be riveting, thrilling. The same can be said for Austin. I want to see what this guy can do on any given night, and him not being in the arena, under the bright lights, away from where all the action is. That's not what you want as a hockey fan. That's not what he wants as a hockey player. So we're going to be without that for a while.
Yeah, and the question
as it's the team as it's constructed right now has plenty of stars and guys who can step in, and I really don't think that this team will have its expected record is going to be affected too much with Austin Matthews being out of the lineup. They're still too potent, Mike.
Well, I mean, the question is how long, and we won't know that maybe until tomorrow when Mike Babcock said he would have more information on the injury. I mean, just looking at it and comparing it to the last shoulder injury he had, which was last February against the Islanders when he got sandwiched by Cal Clutterbuck and another Islander player. He was out a month for that. And they said it was a grade 2 separation, which I guess is a less severe separation. I don't know, like, I'm not going to play amateur doctor, but his shoulder was hanging. He was in pain skating off the ice. So, I mean, best case scenario, I would think it would be a month. So if that's the case, I mean, and I made this point on my blog today on Hockey Buzz, they're much better suited this year to survive an injury to Matthews than they were last year. If you remember, last year they moved Marleau to the middle for the 2 injuries he's had early in the year, the concussion and the back problem. And then later in the year, when they were basically locked in the third place, they moved William Nylander up the middle, and he was generally ineffective at that. So this year, they have Tavares, they have Kadri 1-2, and they just moved Par Lindholm back to the middle as the number 3. And that's not bad. And depending on how long this injury is, and that's what they'll have to go with.
From Jonas Siegel this morning on the lines at practice, Tavares centering a line with Hyman and Kapanen, Kadri with Marlowe and Marner flanking him, Lindholm, Janssen. This is an opportunity for him. Opportunity knocks when players go down, and I'm hoping these guys can knock loud. Lindholm with Janssen and Brown, and Gauthier with Ennis and Levo. The hit itself, last year, Cal Clutterbuck, he's putting your star player out. Cal Clutterbuck, come on, man. Like, that guy, we know he's sandpaper. That guy's lucky to be in the league based on the fact that, he does what he does, and general managers and coaches still like what he does. But Jacob Trouba is a key cog in the wheel for the Winnipeg Jets, and I know fans don't want their star players to get hit like that, but the opposition really doesn't care about your sensitivities, Leafs fans, and your protectionism and your want for your star players to be coddled and cared for. These guys are going after them, and they don't really care. And if they have to be yelled at from the stands, that's not something they really factor into when they know that one of the top players in the game is out now, giving themselves a better chance to win, ultimately get the win in that contest. So, it's just one of those things. Matthews knows that he's going to be a target out there, and this is the way it goes. Ask Sidney Crosby how it plays out. That guy's missed almost 2 full seasons with concussion, based on the fact that he's been locked in physically with a lot of guys who want to take him out. It's part of the game, unfortunately.
Well, and this is the thing. Like I said, this is 4 injuries in 13 months after he played all 82 games in his rookie season. But he had a shoulder injury previous to being drafted by the Leafs. He had a leg injury. Being injured is part of hockey, part of being a hockey player. You have to get through it. Now, the thing I'm concerned about for the long-term situation is that now this is 3 shoulder injuries, so one of them has been hurt twice. We know that it takes a long time to recover from shoulder injuries. I would suspect that part of the lackluster performance that Matthews had in the playoffs was tied to the shoulder injury that he had late in the season, but he didn't want to use it as an excuse, and nobody else wanted to use it as an excuse either. But I think that has to be a factor. So they're gonna take their time and make sure he's 100%. But it may affect what type of not to say what type of player he is, because he's an immensely talented player, but he may not be able to go to the net as much because almost all the injuries that he's had has been either crashing the net, going toward the net, and taking a hit. And sometimes, if your body doesn't allow you to do that, and he's 21 years old, so I'm not overreacting here, but I'm just saying, if you keep getting hurt going to the net like that and keep getting crunched by players, then you may have to be more of a perimeter player and pick your spots rather than go to the net all the time.
I'd rather have John Tavares go to the net anyway. He's a little bit more compact, and he's been doing it for so long, and he's a physical force, kind of in the same way Sidney Crosby is. Just really, he's just a tank. And with Austin Matthews, if he has to pick his spots and dance around the perimeter to stay in the game, fine. He's got the shot to do it. He's got the finesse to do it. He's got the imagination and the creativity to do it. Great. It's not like he's going to give up on being physical to earn his points just yet, but you've got to be a survivor in this game too, Mike. You can't be too nuts. You can't be too reckless, or you're going to not derail your career, but you're going to certainly hinder its possibilities. So these are things that I'm sure that Austin Matthews is thinking in his head right now, and obviously the coaching staff and management too. This is the Leafs Convo. Norman James in London, Mike Augello in Buffalo. The win, Mike, nice little comeback, as I mentioned earlier in the episode. You're going to win in a variety of ways, and nothing's perfect. And the Jets carried the play for most of it, but the Leafs were able to steal a game. That's what winning teams do, right, Mike? Pull a rabbit out of the hat late, get that win, leave the opposition demoralized, especially when they thought that they were probably going to get out of Toronto with the deuce.
Well, again, and I pointed this out on, I think, on the last convo, was the fact that they're 5-0 on the road, and they played their best hockey on the road. And last night they were a period away from being 2-4. Now they came back. Kadri gets the goal to make it 2-1. They get the 2 goals within 26 seconds with Gardner and Kapanen. They win the game. Now they're 500 at home. But honestly, they have played one complete game or close to complete game in 6 at home, and that was against the dreadful LA Kings. They have not played well at home. And that has to be a concern for Mike Babcock. Now, again, he's going to be concerned mostly about what's going to happen and how long he's going to be without Matthews. And Nazem Kadri said after the game yesterday that their depth has been talked about for a long time, especially after the acquisition of Tavares. And this is where that depth comes into focus, because you have to rely on the quality that you have on the roster to step up when somebody is missing. It's not all about Austin Matthews, but he is leading the league in goals, so it is a loss that they're gonna have, and we don't know how long it's gonna be. But they did go 11-7-2 last year in the 20 games without Matthews, so they can win games without him.
Because they're a good team. They have a number one center right now playing in the number one position, and that's John Tavares. You had a number one center playing in the number 2 spot. You had a number 2 center playing in the number 3 spot. They can win. They can get 110, 15 points with Austin Matthews, without William Nylander. They have a really, really good team. They have, when you add everybody in, it's an overabundance. And how can you concoct a Stanley Cup champion with all of this incredible talent, with extra talent? Sometimes it's a little bit harder to do than when you actually just have the right amount. And it'll be interesting to see how things progress here. I don't see any reason why the team itself would be demoralized because Austin Matthews is not part of it. You've got opportunity now for Nazem Kadri to play with somebody like Mitch Marner. And Nazem Kadri, who knows, this guy could carry the team for a little while. While John Tavares just chips away and does what he has to do. I wanted to ask you before we go, Mike, how does the Austin Matthews injury impact the stalemate between Camp Nylander and the Toronto Maple Leafs? Is there a little bit more of an onus now on the Leafs to up the ante a little bit and try to get Nylander back to bring in some more heavyweight capability to this lineup? Or, again, whether it's Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner and Nazem Kadri going down, the Leafs just basically are dug into their position, because this isn't about how many players are in the infirmary. It's more about asset management, and that's just the way it has to go.
Yeah, I don't think it changes the focus or changes the tactics of the Leafs toward Nylander. I mean, somebody in the press box yesterday was saying, "Well, I'm sure Nylander's camp is, not saying they're rooting for somebody to get hurt, but I'm sure Nylander's camp is, happy that this happened. Maybe it shakes things loose." No, I mean, this is not about the here and now with Nylander. It's about the next 2 to 6 years in terms of his contract and being able to fit players underneath the salary cap. And from everything that I've heard, it's a week and a half since the Switzerland sojourn that Kyle Dubas took to meet William Nylander. There's been no progress that reported. There's been nothing out there in terms of a deal being close. And if you looked at what Kyle Dubas, and it was illustrated well on the Saturday night headlines last night on Hockey Night in Canada, that Dubas has visited 5 NHL cities in 5 days. You don't do that in late October as a part of a scouting trip. There's something going on. I don't know whether it's just them putting on a little bit of a shell game to say, we're going to trade you, William, if you don't come in at our number. But I think he's preparing for both eventualities, either trade him or sign him. But they got to get him at his number. And I don't think Matthews being out a month or a couple days is going to make a difference one way or the other.
I've said it before, I'll say it again, and I'll wrap it up with this. I love the Leafs more than I love Leafs. And William Nylander might be statistically the best forward who's not playing in the game right now and is not appreciated the way he should be, and is not being treated financially the way his numbers ought to get him to be treated. But I'll tell you, this team has a goal, and that's to win a Stanley Cup. It's not to make a group of Nylanderites happy. It's big. It's bigger than that. And at the end of the day, the Leafs have to figure out what they're going to do with the fact that they have an asset they're not getting anything from right now. How do you either get him back in the fray, make him happy, make yourselves happy, make the team happy, and go win a Stanley Cup, or take that asset, parlay it for something else that can come in and help this team right now? This isn't just about making William Nylander happy, okay? He's not number one on the pecking order. He's not 2. He's not 3. Not even 4 or 5, perhaps. So if he doesn't like that, then he's either going to have to grin and bear it, or the Leafs are going to have to make a move to send him somewhere where he can be the guy. All of his great stats and all his great possibilities and all of his great potential included. Bring back something that can help this team get to where it wants to go. And the goal here isn't to sell more William Nylander dolls. The goal here is to have, in late June, Austin Matthews accept that damn Stanley Cup and hoist it in front of either the crowd at Scotiabank Arena or wherever the hell they're going to win that thing. Last word to you, Mike.
Well, the Leafs play 2 games at home this week against Calgary tomorrow and against Dallas on Thursday. So right now they have 12 forwards with Matthews injured, and the Marlies do not play until Friday. So they may go with Janssen, and they may go with the lineup that Jonas Siegel reported. But I wouldn't be surprised if they call up somebody as a 13th forward, and maybe somebody who, if Babcock doesn't like the way Janssen is playing, which has been off and on this year, maybe insert a guy like a Trevor Moore, who is
for sure
who's leading the Marlies with 7 goals in 9 games. So you could see that in the next few days.
Mike Babcock likes that kind of stuff. You go play your ass off. You deserve your chance. Let's go. Right?
Exactly.
Okay, Mike, gotta go, man.
Thanks, Norm.
That'll wrap this episode of the Leafs Convo podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Without your support, we just can't do what we do. My brother from another mother, the prospect prince, Kyle Outridge, has a brand new take on the Marlies. The Calder Cup champs, after a slow start, are starting to heat up a little bit. Plus, Jillian McLeod has her game changer. It's all right now on the YouTube channel. Don't forget the full podcast, the collabs between Mike and I, the bread and butter of this project we love so much, will be strictly on podcast platform for now, with some snippets from each episode put to YouTube. We're trying to change things up a little bit. Let us know what you think about it at Norman James TLC, at Mike and Buffalo. For Big Mike, I'm Big NJ. We'll talk to you soon. The Leafs Convo podcast is outie.